This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Donnie Darko, with mentions of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and New Moon. For full list, please see show notes. There are also discussions surrounding child predators, bullying, and domestic abuse.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing the 2001 cult classic here, people, Donnie Darko.
And you have been on my ass to watch this probably as long as I've known you. You've always talked about, we gotta watch it. And then I was out visiting you and we're like, you know what we're gonna do? We are going to watch Donnie Darko, and we have to experience it in two parts. We have to experience it as the general audience, which is our theatrical cut, and we both watched this on Amazon Prime. And then I came home and you said, okay, now you have to watch the director's cut. And the director's cut came out 4 years after the first one. So the theatrical cut is what the masses watched, and how you even said, you're not taking notes. You're going to vibe like we all vibe when we first watched this. Editor Sam was walking by with different commentary saying, and you said, Laura, did you remind her about, yes. And you're like, yes, I did all those things. And here we are discussing it, in spooky season, which is so fun because the movie itself counts down during October.
The movie is set in October. It's very spooky. It's atmospheric. It is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which boo, I know, but here, he's very good.
He is Laura's type.
He didn't even know. He did not know Taylor here. Taylor did not exist to Jake Gyllenhaal in 2001.
Was she? I don't even know. She was probably born. But he was 19 playing a 16-year-old paranoid schizophrenic Catholic high school boy.
Yeah. Fantastic. He's also, it's Jake Gyllenhaal, so it's dark hair, blue eyes. The bluest blue eyes. Okay, so
and the craziest smile.
Yeah.
Who doesn't blink, but I guess that adds to his character.
Adds to it. So yes, obviously you can tell from my voice, I love this movie. I'm holding in my hand my physical copy of the Donnie Darko director's cut. It's a double disc situation. I've got both of them here. I have a story, and that story is how I discovered Donnie Darko. I will age myself a little bit and tell you just because it's fun. So I say we, not Jessica, because she did not go to school with me until much, much later. But when I was a young child, this movie came out, and me knew nothing about it until one day one of my cool friends came and handed me a DVD and said, here, watch this. And this is not uncommon. This happened, a lot. This is also how I was introduced to Blade, interestingly enough. Different person though. But so the DVD was handed to me and I was like, okay, cool. Where am I going to watch this? Because this is not like a family like situation. This is a in my room situation. But if you remember DVD players, it was a time, it was a place, it was a vibe. But everybody had a DVD player on their computer at the time. So it was very easy then to watch this movie in a minimized screen on your computer while you were also doing homework, because if you haven't seen it, it's fucking weird. And it's fucking weird to have your parents walk by always at the worst possible time and go, what are you watching? And then you have to sit there, especially as a child, and look at them and be like, well, it's this. And to do it in a way where they don't immediately like yeet it out of the computer and not let you have it again. It's fucking wild. So the screen was minimized in the bottom, headphones were on, and you were listening, and it would just go whoop, full screen, your homework whenever you heard footsteps. And that DVD and that way of watching it was passed down through my friend group for years, actually.
But like, it adds to the suspense of the movie, that's for sure, because you're like, what is happening? Because what is happening? Because, you know, two people who don't know what's happening, Jake Gyllenhaal and Seth Rogen, because, you know, surprise, every time somebody popped up on the screen in this movie, it's Seth Rogen's debut movie role. Drew Barrymore is involved. Not only was she involved with it, that was part of the credits. I saw Flower Film Productions, and I thought, oh, that's Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon's wife production company. That's interesting. And then she shows up on screen. I'm so excited. Who else shows up on screen? Patrick Swayze. In his own clothes. He used his own wardrobe for this movie.
Mm-hmm. Let's not forget Ashley Tisdale. She makes her appearance. Yes.
She's one of the Sparkle Motion girls?
No, she's one of the girls that comes and talks on microphone to Jim Cunningham during the school assembly.
I didn't even notice. I didn't clock that at all, even in my second watch. I definitely clocked Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm. Maggie Gyllenhaal, absolutely. Fantastic cast. Noah Wyle, of course. We love ER on this podcast. Okay. So it was a time watching this around the years when it came out, because Drew Barrymore was very much like, ooh, she's like she's like older and like cool and everything. Patrick Swayze, okay. Like Noah Wyle, awesome. Like Jake Gyllenhaal, hot. So it was like one of those movies that you're like, okay, it has to be something, because these are like big stars that are in it. But what the shit? So this is also, in its kind of in weird way, one of my first introductions to indie movies, and that kind of exploration that indie movies can have, that kind of like studio films maybe can't kind of do, especially during this time period. So very interesting that we have that. And Frank is kind of scary. So, just to set the vibes here, based on the movie poster that you saw and based on the synopsis, would you ever have seen this movie had I not forced you to?
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't even, when, you know, you talk about books and you talk about TBRs, this wouldn't even have been on like my movies to watch list, you know? It was just because I go, you know, after watching it, understanding the context of the movie, or so I think, I would have seen the poster and I go, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then, because we were doing like little fun fact research, knowing what I know now as somebody who is, you know, actively, professionally in entertainment, knowing that Sam Raimi has an involvement in this film and seeing that poster, I would have been like, absolutely fucking not. If you've been following the podcast, y'all know I don't do horror. It is not my thing. I used to do it when I was younger and I tapped out of that. I was just over it and not like, oh, I'm over. No, like it scares me to my core. So yeah, if you showed me the poster, if I even thought to research before we started vibing with the movie, I would have been like, nope. Hard turnaround. It would have been like on The Wizard of Oz, where they go, nope, we're heading back on the yellow brick road because we're not going down this one. And what a scale! Like, even when I was watching the director's cut last night, it was around the movie scene where we see Frank, and I'm like, I'm getting tired, and I don't need Frank to be the last thing I see before I go to bed. It's kind of creepy.
He is. Frank is kind of creepy. Okay, so all of that context that we have now then, Jess, you've seen this movie twice. You seem excited to talk about this. I know that you tried to do a little bit of research on this. Like, what was that like?
You know, and I was sharing with you before the show, and this is going to make me sound so fucking pretentious. I'm kind of going to apologize for it. But when I was doing research, I was finding all of these fun facts that we'll sprinkle in through the episode and, of course, in the tail end. But I wanted some commentary, some cinephile, you know, conversation of like what this movie really meant, the depth. Am I understanding it wrong? Or like, I just wanted more context and insight, because that's ultimately, I feel like once you get to the end of the movie, if you have no idea what it's about up until a certain point, it's so smart. It's so well thought out because there's a sci-fi time travel tie-in. And if you've listened to our Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind episode, and like you said, Laura, with indie film, it kind of goes in that same vein of being like, oh, wait, there's this continual time loop, but you start picking up on things throughout the film, like, wait, that was marked off, but that wasn't marked off regarding the calendar. Or you start asking the questions of like, why is this happening? But nobody knows where it's going. And then you're picking up on details. And like with Eternal Sunshine, to do a rewatch of this movie almost immediately after watching it, you pick up on those things so much more.
Yes. And also, because we did experience the theatrical version first, and then we took notes on the director's cut, and because I don't know, I sound like an ass because I am so familiar with the theatrical cut. The differences in the director's cut are very stark for me, just because I had years and years and years with only the theatrical cut.
Which I have a question, because I mean, I think one of the things that I found regarding discourse between, you know, the theatrical and the director's cut was that the people didn't like the director's cut as much as they liked the theatrical cut, which is so interesting because the theatrical cut leaves so much for ambiguity and understanding what's going on and leaving it up to the person who's viewing it. But with the director's cut, everything seems very on the nose. And I think I was even making notes. I go, I can't remember. Was I just not paying attention in the first one? I say first one, the theatrical cut, or are we missing things? And something really stark about the director's cut is we have chapters that are being exposed as we're going into certain dates and certain experiences and certain parts of the timeline of a 28-day timeline. And I don't know. I feel like it's too on the nose because it was so exciting with the theatrical cut where you're like, oh my God, I've pieced everything together. I think it's hard to explain time travel, in my opinion, or anything with sci-fi, because your brain goes faster than the words you're trying to articulate. And you're like, but I know there's something happening. I just don't know how to explain it because I'm not a smart person.
This is going to be very fun because we have Jess's like very new thoughts and ideas and my like very established kind of ideas about what's happening with the plot. And I'm very excited to see where they diverge because I think I know where they will, and it will be very exciting. Okay, You're so excited. I'm terrified. So excited. Let's dive into this. Okay, this is set in Virginia. It's not filmed in Virginia, but get Virginia on your mind, all right? We're in the mountains. We're on a deserted road. Early morning, a little bit of thunder. Donnie wakes up. Slow-mo on Donnie curled up in the road. Donnie sleepwalking. I think I can say from the instant he stands up and turns around, I was like, oh, well, damn, okay.
That's like driving me crazy. Adrian Grenier. You woke up and you're like, fuck me.
Fuck me. God damn it. Instant. He's just, he's like normal gorgeous in this movie. Cause like he's in the Catholic school thing. It does it for me. He's also got the smile, the crazy little smile that he's got. Like he knows something's going on. This is set in 1988. So Virginia, 1988. Get that on your mind. Donnie rides home and we are introduced to Middlesex, Virginia. The music is different here between the theatrical cut and this director's cut. It's two different songs. And the sound, I think the sound direction is different in a lot of scenes. And it kind of, I don't know. I find the director's cut in general has much more music and much more upbeatness than the theatrical cut, which I feel is much heavier and much more vibes.
Oh, interesting. I've only seen it twice, so I didn't notice it right away. I mean, of course, I noticed when they used Mad World. But they actually, now that you think about it, I remember I was singing along with Tears for Fears in the first one, and I don't remember singing along in the second one.
Yep, it's a different song. Did you notice then on your rewatch, Frank's car zoomed by as Donnie is riding his bicycle? Donnie is coming this way, and Frank's red car goes that way, and it makes a noise. It goes rum, rum, rum. It's amazing. Obviously, this is set in October, and we have Donnie's house. Donnie's house is 80s glory. It's amazing.
Yeah. What do his parents do?
I don't know, but he's in New York a lot. And I don't know, but they've got the trampoline. They've got the huge kitchen. They've got the glass enclosed, like eat-in kitchen. It's amazing. The windy stairs.
Maggie, I say Maggie, but Elizabeth, sorry, thank you. Played by Elizabeth Darko, who is Donnie's sister, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal. She's going to Harvard.
Oh, yeah.
After her gap year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She's going to Harvard, obviously. Our mother is reading It. As we zoom into this house, the whiteboard on the refrigerator, where's Donnie? That will give us messages throughout the rest of the film. It's fantastic. Jess, tell me about this dinner. You know I don't have siblings.
So there's a family dinner, and the cursing threw me off because growing up, I never swore in front of adults. It's still hard to. But that both Elizabeth Darko and Donnie are going back and forth. They both have Donnie is the middle child and the only son. They have a little sister, Samantha. Samantha's just repeating what the older siblings are saying, being inquisitive. The dad, I know we just had our New Moon episode. We are in our great dad glory with another one here with Donnie's dad.
Especially
this
in
one.
This cut.
This one's a good, this is a good, and a lot of the director's cut, we have a lot of scenes with the dad that we don't get in the theatrical cut. And he's a prankster. He's the stereotypical dad, joking around with the kids, giving them a hard time, but thinks they're hilarious. And he's the fun dad. And then we also have the tale as old as time argument at the table where Maggie, Elizabeth Darko, oldest sister that she is I'm voting Democrat. There's nothing you can do about it, Dad. And Dad is the conservative older dad saying you can't tell me what to do. You come back to me crying when the state of the country is murmur. So also politics were very different in the 80s. So, but it really felt this movie was also made in 2001. So tale continues to be as old as time. Here we are in 2024. But the fight is happening, argument, I should say. The mom is exasperated at all of them. And she's going at this solo because the dad is just laughing. He's that way kind of throughout the film too. His kids always have his support. He knows he's supposed to be on the mom's side about punishment and disciplinary actions, but he's so proud of everything his kids do.
Everything that they do. He's just wonderful. So when, Donnie and Elizabeth are going back and forth, you're such a fuck ass. What's a fuck ass? You want me to tell you? I'm all ears. What's a fuck ass? You can suck a fuck. The dad keeps a straight face, and then Samantha goes, "What's a fuck ass?" And the dad loses it.
He tried so hard.
He loses it at the table. It is so funny. But then we have an added scene between the mom and the sister being of Elizabeth being like, I took a year off for you, talking to her boyfriend on the phone. And the mom being like, how did you know that Donnie's office medication? Like, you need to like tell people it's a big deal. And Elizabeth, like, I thought it was fucking obvious. Like, she's like, no. But then we have the get out of my room. I'm reading. He's reading his English assignment for the next day. So he's doing his homework.
Well, and it's not like, oh, I put it off till tomorrow. Like it was 12 pages. We know that is confirmed. Yeah. It was a 12-page assignment, the only reading assignment that he had with all the classes that he had. And he calls his mom a bitch after he closes the door. You know what? It was one of those things where you close the door and you're like, ah.
He waited a few seconds too. He was like,
to think she walked away.
Yeah.
Bitch. And it's like that. You get so much, I don't know, satisfaction, even though they didn't hear it and you're assuming they don't hear you, but it takes a weight off your chest in that moment. The only thing is Donnie's mom was still outside the door. And then she goes to her husband and she's like, our son. And she doesn't say your son because she's like, our son just called me a bitch. And he goes, you're not a bitch. You're bitching. And he's just such a good dad.
He's such a good dad. I love him so much. But Donnie does, though, get up and start taking his pills. So he starts taking his pills here, right here. And then this is where it happens. This is the moment. Donnie takes his pills and wha-bam. In this version, we have our eyeball, Donnie's eye, but it's
the eye wasn't in the first one, right?
No, none of the eye stuff.
Okay, because then I keep seeing it throughout the director's cut, and I go, I started gaslighting myself. I go, I guess I just didn't remember it in the theatrical cut.
Nope, the eye stuff is all added. But here we have our wake up. This is October 2nd. We're not counting down to anything yet because it's happening now. Wake up. I've been watching you. Donnie is sleepwalking. He leaves his room, goes down the stairs, takes the marker from the whiteboard, and very creepily, the national anthem is playing on the TV that the dad is fallen asleep watching downstairs. Very creepy, very creepy. Continuing with Donnie, we have come closer. And he ends up on the golf course. And this is our first visual of Frank. And of course, Frank says the iconic
28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. That is when the world will end.
Of course, we have the iconic why. That is not answered. We have to figure out why. So that is Donnie's situation. What's happening at his house is Elizabeth is coming home from like a party or whatever. She's dressed in the nines for the 80s.
She's stunning in this movie.
Yeah. Gorgeous. She closes the door. She hears her honks. And then the mom is sleeping upstairs. And then there is a huge, it's like an explosion. It's not an explosion. A jet engine drops on Donnie's room and it shakes the entire house. Terrifying.
And I feel like, I don't know if it's the end of this movie in general or if it's the director's cut. You're led to believe that it's only Donnie's room that's impacted and the roof. And this movie, it falls through all the floors.
Yeah. The whole thing. Because she's got to redo like the dining, like living room. She's in there showing everybody everything. Yeah. So the jet engine totally just wrecks everything. So those two things are happening concurrently. Donnie is talking to Frank as the jet engine is falling on his room. Okay. So Donnie then wakes up on the golf course, opens his eyes to Patrick Swayze. Hello. Nice to see you, sir. Okay. Stay off the links at night. That's his friend's like dad that he's playing golf with, the doctor. And Donnie has to walk home to his house being roped off by the police. Jess, I know you were screaming, don't sign anything.
Yes, because the FAA comes and they're like, oh, just sign all this stuff. I go, where are the lawyers? Where's the lawsuits? And then you're going to tell me, oh, you're going to upkeep me in a hotel for a week. Because apparently it only takes a week to fix your house and your roof for, after a jet engine falls through it. And everyone's like, oh, being in a hotel where everyone is sharing rooms? Couldn't be me. Tell me. I want every lawsuit and I want first class flight tickets for the rest of my life and for everybody in my family. And if they decide to have grandchildren, we would learn what generational wealth is real quick in that situation.
For real, for real. And Samantha in the hotel scene is like, can we make money off of this? Of course, this is added. It is, cut for the theatrical version. And she's like, hey, like, can we get on TV? Can we sue? Like, what can we do about this?
She's the only one who's thinking, and you know what? She's an entertainer. We know that. So, of course, her mind is thinking Star Search and all like these talent competitions that were around in the 80s.
Yep. But of course, she's the youngest. So everyone's like, shut up, Samantha. Shut up, Samantha. We have the like, why do I have to sleep with Donnie? Donnie stinks. I'm going to fart in your face.
That is a sibling thing. He's like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fart in your face. That is totally sibling thing. That one part was funny.
Amazing. But then we go to the parents on the parent side. And this is, again, I love this. I love the dad. The dad is very introspective. The dad gets it. The dad talks about this kid that he and the mom went to high school with that died on his way to prom and how everyone said like he was doomed. And in this director's cut, where the dad says like, like somebody was watching over Donnie, like he dodged his.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because I didn't note it. He says it could have been Donnie. He dodged his bullet. Somebody was watching over him.
Yeah, again, dad understands. Dad gets that like that something crazy was happening. I think everybody knows by now that I went to Catholic school until high school. So this school montage, amazing, right? Amazing. Very accurate. I love the slow-mo, our introduction of Drew Barrymore and Noah Wyle, Patrick Swayze walking
she
across
hasn't
campus.
aged at all.
She looks amazing. Amazing. We have the bus stop scene with Sharita, our two friends, the sister. That's some good shit, right? It's a fucking cigarette.
That was hilarious because, I said the same thing on the couch. Before he even says the line, he goes, there's some good shit. And I go, it's a fucking cigarette. And you just started laughing because you already knew the next line. I go, hey, he said it.
Hey, he said it. What happens if you tell mom and dad about this? I'll put Ariel in the garbage disposal. You're goddamn right I will. It's so quotable. It's so quotable. It's so good. Seth Rogen plays a bully here.
We don't like bullies.
But Seth Rogen...
Like someone's boobs. That's
like
for damn sure
boobs.
For his movie debut.
Which is hilarious. And if you ever meet him, you should bring that up. Our first class in school is Drew's class, as it should be. It's amazing. Drew's class. We are talking about Graham Greene's The Destructors, and let's talk about it out loud here. A 15-year-old and his friends burn down a house in order to create change, right? Here we are. Donnie, it is revealed to us later, burned down an abandoned house. And he cannot drive.
Yeah, that's not related to the house that he burns down later.
No, it's just part of like the lore of Donnie and like all of this meaning that we find in this movie, like chock full of meaning, right? How do we feel then about the chaos that is Drew Barrymore's seating arrangements?
Fucking wild. Because when we have new student Gretchen, who Donnie is going to inevitably have a crush on, she goes, Gretchen comes in. She goes, hey, look, like I was placed in the wrong classroom. They told me to come here next. She goes, and Drew says, you look like you belong here. This looks like a class that would work for you. Pick a seat. Pick a seat next to the person you find most attractive. And of course, she says this aloud in the classroom and everyone's like, ooh, ouch, whispers. And she's obviously awkward, is put into this situation, but she keeps eyeing Donnie. And Drew Barrymore looks at the girl who's currently sitting next to Donnie and goes, move. what? But like also Drew being that like wing woman there in that situation, because I feel like teachers always know when you have a crush, because mine would always put me next to the person that I was crushing on at the moment, because I could never talk to somebody I was attracted to. And then I would become friends with them, and then like the crush would go away.
It is so good too, because like Donnie's like, hey, all right.
And it was after he did his spiel where you were like, oh, he's so hot. He's so deep.
He's insightful. He can do English class. Like, oh, it's good. It's good. And then we have another excellent scene with Dad, right? Dad's driving Donnie to therapy because Dad is a good dad. And he's
an active parent.
He's an active parent. He actively almost hits Grandma Death. And, that sucks. But we have the whisper. Jess, what does Grandma Death whisper to Donnie?
So Grandma Death, who's also known as Roberta Sparrow, she used to be a science teacher at the high school, but we'll get to that in a sec. She says, every living creature dies alone.
Yep. Every living creature dies alone.
And that's on October 10th. So or the week of October 10th, I shall say.
Yep. So here we are. We have this thought now ringing around in Donnie's head. And then we have it's like a meme. We have the memeable moment of at therapy. I made a new friend. Real or imaginary? Imaginary.
He's so sad. Like, he's like, you clocked me, bitch.
You got me. You got me. You got me. But then we have, I love Donnie's relationship with Dr. Thurman, though, because like his dad says in this version, in the director's cut, tell the truth. Tell people, like, it's better to be honest and tell the truth and tell them what's going on with you, because they're going to look at you anyway.
And and if you're going to tell anybody, you better tell the therapist is who should
tell
really.
Your therapist.
Yeah.
Tell the therapist. And Donnie does. Donnie does. There's only one thing that he keeps from her. But here she says like, or Donnie says, like, I made a new friend. His name is Frank. Frank says, I need to follow him into the future, because like the world is ending. And the therapist is like, oh, fuck. All right. Do you think the world is ending? And Donnie's like, no, that's stupid. And it starts there. And then at the end, he's on his knees at the therapist saying yes. And it's going to happen soon. So it starts here and it ends there. It's good shit. It's that good shit.
And it's a good therapist. I will say that I was very skeptical when I watched it the first time around. I'm like, there's going to be something shady there going on with that therapist. I don't know, but she really wasn't. She was really in tune and non-judgmental with Donnie.
And like actively trying to help him and, involving the parents, calling the parents, like, it's the 80s.
Yeah. And not necessarily disclosing all of their conversations, but saying like, look, here are kind of my recommendations. This is kind of my formal diagnosis. This is typically the course of action that we would take.
The course of action you would take, just tell me about, wait, I got to do it. Love. Fear.
So we have our local motivational speaker, who we find out is, trigger warning. And we'll also have this in the notes. He is a pedophile. He molests kids. He has kiddie porn in his dungeon in this house. And spoilers for the whole movie, if you haven't found out by now, that Donnie does burn down. And that's how we find out and how Jim is exposed. And so he's this motivational speaker. We have one of the teachers at the Catholic school who is really gung-ho for him, really vouches for him, wants to teach us courses in an ethics class that I wasn't familiar with. But Laura, you said that you had this class in high school where I go, what the hell is going on? What class is this? She goes, oh, we are very familiar with this.
Yes, very familiar. It's morality and ethics. That's the class.
And I go, oh, which is also a great scene because she gives assignments to the students and be like, is this fear? Is this love? And kids are answering. And I say kids, like the students are answering based on what they know is supposed to be the right answer. Like killing is fear, being romantic is love, all these different like really straightforward questions. And you have Donnie, our thinker. Well, it's not that easy with your scenarios you're giving me. Like I have questions. There's a lot of gray area, this, that, the other thing. And the teacher, Kitty, doesn't like that he questions anything. He's not a yes man. He has opinions and he questions it, and the teacher doesn't like it till eventually he tells her to shove her examples up her ass. And the dad and the parents get called to the principal's office, and the dad is holding it back the entire time. He's again so proud of like, damn the man,
It's amazing. He's absolutely the best. Absolutely the best. Okay. Rewinding just a bit. We have to flood the school. Okay. So yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the flooding of the school happens around the week of October 18th. And again, this isn't going to be completely chronological, clearly. But I will note that of the notes that I took from the director's cut, one of the chapters, because we get like whooshed chapters, kind of glazed over in between scenes. And it says, water and metal are key components in time travel. Water, flood the school. Metal, the axe that Donnie was carrying. I didn't tell you this in my voice memo last night, but I really was so excited because the axe is made of metal. You have the water as the conduit. They work for the time travel, and he used the axe to start the flood. So they needed, that was the catalyst to keep the time travel motion going.
And also, because, Donnie has a specific title. Let me see. He is, the living receiver. Donnie specifically.
According to the book, The Philosophy of Time Travel by Roberta Sparrow, who is also known as Grandma Death.
Yes, he's the living receiver, and part of his powers that he gets as designated title is increased strength. So everything you said, Jess, absolutely. And then when he puts that axe through the mongrel's head, it's made of solid bronze, and that is you can't fucking do that. So all of that together kind of solidifies what is happening here. And then again, school's canceled. We're at the bus stop in the morning. School's canceled. I like your boobs. I like your boobs. Do you want to walk me home? So
Which,
good.
love, she's so smart to be good. I need to find somebody I'm gonna feel safe with. Because also, backstory to Gretchen is she's kind of on the run. Her and her mom are kind of they ran away from a domestic abusive stepfather. And so they're kind of I don't want to say they're in witness protection, but they moved, they did all these things. And so she's already on alert all the time, no matter what.
Yep. No matter what. And then she's got oh, it's my crush, okay. He ends up asking her out at the end of this. So great. Do you want to go with me? Go where? That's what we call it here. Go with me. Where are you going? I'm going home. So good.
And it's also so high school, in a cute way.
It's adorable.
You want to go out with me? And you're sure. Where?
I don't know if you clocked this, but Donnie kind of info dumps to Gretchen a lot. He's just really excited to have somebody to talk to. So he says I burned down the house. I can't drive till I'm 21. I'm over all of that. I've started painting and writing. I'd like to write a book and maybe draw the pictures, make people understand me and change things. Kind of sounds exactly what Roberta Sparrow did. She wrote her book. She drew the pictures.
Well, she was a nun before the fact that she was a nun and having all of these ideologies, she's guess I gotta shift to science and teach at the school where there's going to be an impact.
Because it stands to reason that she is also a living receiver, and she survived her tangent universe collapse. So that is kind of part of what's going on.
Kind of where she goes loopy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. For lack of a better word.
Yep. So again, talking about Donnie at his therapist. He starts now hypnotherapy, and his first one is just very funny, where he talks about he still likes girls. But
what do you think about all the time? Girls. What about at school?
Girls.
More girls.
More girls. It's very funny. Jake Gyllenhaal does he just does a great job throughout this whole movie, but he does a great job while he's talking to Frank and when he's under like hypnosis. You just kind of like really feel that for him. Also, though, I just want to say he does have great handwriting, because the "they made me do it" that he has to do on the chalkboard is a perfect line. He did that perfectly. So very nice, Donnie Darko. Jess, how do you feel about the Smurfette rant?
It was a lot. I feel like I loved it. It was fun. But it was like he was so over his friends' bullshit, and they're trying to be so thoughtful and melodic and deep with their conversation, and Donnie's just over their bullshit, and he's like, first of all, this shit isn't going to happen because you don't know your Smurf lore. That was like basically how he called them out on it. Mm-hmm. And then the friends, after Donnie has his monologue about the origin story of Smurfs and how they're asexual, which is also kind of very forward thinking for 2001 when this movie came out. So assuming it was written like 99. I think that like the friends they were like, dude.
Damn it, Donnie. Why you gotta get so smart on us?
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Yep. Something that I find hilarious is that, hey, you fuck, from the bully attack that happens in the school, just kind of setting up that Donnie has like enemies. But going back to the Smurfette rant, when you look at the shot, Donnie is firing a gun and he's hitting all of the bottles. So we're establishing that Donnie is a good shot. And also the tree itself that Donnie is standing next to is the ears of Frank. So there's, we're there. Like we're there. We're in it. We're in it. We're in it. We also get somebody ought to write that bitch, to Grandma Death, who's out there at her mailbox, back and forth, back and forth. Jess, did you burn with rage at the PTA meeting?
I like, of course, because Kitty is trying to censor books and reading. But I love, it was also such a different time because the PTA meeting, you have Donnie's parents saying, why are we even here? This is bullshit. The PTA has no power in banning books. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mrs. Darko.
Yeah, Mrs. Darko's a real fucking one. She's everything. Drew Barrymore, it's meant to be ironic. You need to go back to grad school. In this director's cut, we have, Kitty, what are you trying to accomplish here? My office was full of urine and feces. Drew Barrymore, whatever fits. That's not in the theatrical version. I love the whatever fits. And she goes, whatever fits. It's really good. But we have Frank, his voiceover here going, don't worry, you got away with it. Because as this is escalating in the PTA meeting, Donnie is talking to Frank in the mirror, and this is where they start touching for the first time. And let me tell you what, when Frank puts his hand up to the mirror, the first time that I saw this, my stomach went out my ass. I was so fucking scared. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? Because Donnie also was like, oh shit.
Yeah, but he does get comfortable with it too, because next thing you know, he's also trying to stab Frank with his knife.
Yeah.
In the window, which is the bathroom mirror.
Yep. Don't worry, you got away with it. This is also where Frank says, like, do you know about time travel? This is where Samantha's like, Donnie, what the fuck are you doing? Donnie, who are you talking to? And Donnie, we see him actively swallow his pill. So again, the two are associated, but we'll get there. Okay. Poetry day. I like the poetry day. It's just Donnie like talking about Frank and explaining to Drew Barrymore that it's a giant bunny rabbit. Basically his poem is about, he's going to send all the kids to bed and send the monsters underground. He will save everybody and no one will remember except for him, Donnie Darko. I mean, there you go.
I feel like, I know we didn't really address it at the beginning, but when we talk about like the pattern, I feel like the pattern continually repeats itself in this film, which also tracks because this is time travel and looping until time travel loops before things are corrected in the tangential universe.
Yep. You got it. You got it. Then we've made it up to our argument. Forcibly insert the Lifeline exercise card into my anus. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Donnie's room is finished. I wish somebody would drop a jet engine on my room. Fantastic. Jess, you had thoughts on this time travel conversation with Dr. Monotov, yeah?
Did I?
You were like a metal craft of any kind, a DeLorean, a metal craft of any kind.
I did have that. I was like, which time? Because I'm mixing them. So we knew from time travel. So in the theatrical cut, we're given like kind of chapter pieces because by this point, Donnie has spoken to one of his professors, specifically his science professor, asking about time travel. The professor gives him insight about the book by Roberta Sparrow, and Donnie is looking for this book. He wants this book. He wants insight. He has no idea what's going on. Then what we find out, and then by reading this, we're also, as the viewer of the director's cut, we're finding different artifacts and understanding this book more with kind of like not watermarked, but layered visuals that you can see along with the text. And one of the texts says, when a tangent universe occurs, those living nearest the vortex will find themselves at the epicenter of a dangerous new world. Artifacts provide the first sign that a tangent universe has occurred. If an artifact occurs, the living will retrieve it with great interest and curiosity. Artifacts are formed from metal, such as an arrowhead from an ancient Mayan civilization or a metal sword from medieval Europe. In this case, our metal artifact is the jet engine, and that's where everything starts, and the loop, as we know it, is occurring.
Yes.
And so this is where Donnie is asking about, like, what are some other examples? Like, what about the DeLorean? This was a time travel machine and Back to the Future. And he's kind of getting deeper than his professor is. And he's at the doctorate level, but he's also teaching at a religious Catholic school. So he's limited about the conversations. He's limited and censored about the conversations he could have with Donnie.
Yes. And after Noah Wyle gives Donnie The Philosophy of Time Travel by Roberta Sparrow, we start to get the inserts of our chapters and our book pages, which don't exist in the theatrical cut. And Jess and I both have like pictures of them, and they exist online, of course, but they are like super helpful to kind of like,
honestly
give context.
It kind of affirmed what we were already thinking, or me, because it was the first time that I watched it. What I saw the first time, where my minds were, I was like, wait. And having that context is really helpful, but also it was kind of fun to be a part of the journey without it.
Yeah, like, it's very fun. I very much enjoy this. So of course, Donnie shares everything. He shares the book at dinner. His mom's getting drunk at dinner and talks about how Roberta Sparrow had a gem collection and kids used to break in all the time, and she's rich. And then Donnie also like dumps all of this on his therapist again, about time travel. And this is where he tells his therapist, like, what Roberta Sparrow said to him, every living creature dies alone. And this is where she has, and we, the viewer, have too, the introduction of God as a character in this movie. Because the therapist is like, how do you feel about that? And Donnie's like, I don't want to be alone. And I used to debate it, and I don't debate it anymore because it's stupid. And the therapist goes, the search for God is stupid. And he goes, it is if everyone dies alone. And the therapist is like, well, hot damn. All right, we got to run with this.
I feel like he has the therapist thinking at times too. Yeah. Because maybe I'm not the therapist for him.
Yep, it's like hot damn. But right after this, it's football night at Donnie's house, and this is where we have our spears of destiny essentially coming out of our chests. Jess, tell me about this. I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, hot damn, this went up a notch.
Yeah, I think it kind of it was the moment where I go, he's either tripping really, really hard from all of the medication, because let's remember, the therapist at this point had a meeting with Donnie's parents, and she said, think we're going to increase that dosage. So you're like, okay, he's definitely hallucinating. He's definitely tripping. If not, should be, because that's the only way that I wouldn't freak out about having tubes, like bubble tubes, protruding from my chest, all for it to coincide with the concept of time travel, because the tubes, they mirror, or really they resemble, a predetermined series of events that you cannot change. This is what is going to happen. This is part of the future. These are the next steps. You cannot negate these next steps. So this coinciding with his reading of the philosophy of time travel, he starts to follow his bubble protrusions from his chest.
Yeah. And he follows it up to his parents' room, and he finds their gun. And that is the only thing that he does not tell his therapist, because Donnie's a thinker. Donnie doesn't want to get locked up before Donnie has to.
Well, that's the first thing I said. I go, don't tell the therapist. But I also said that with confidence when editor Sam was saying, he's not a shooter. He's not a shooter. He's not a school shooter. He's not. And I go, okay, well, now I can say with a full chest, don't tell your therapist.
Yeah. Editor Sam was very trying to make it very clear to Jessica that Donnie is not like violent. He's not going to like hurt anybody. And even later on, when Donnie breaks down and says Frank is going to kill, it's not Donnie doing that. And then eventually, when Donnie does kill Frank, that's closing like we're all coming full circle here. So it's not any of that. We're all good. But Editor Sam was so concerned. He was so concerned. Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Editor Sam. All right. It is October 18th. Donnie is late to class. He's got blood on his neck. We don't know why, but this is where we have our school project about the baby glasses that we have to do. Very fun. This is where we're introduced chapter 2, Water and Metal. And this is also where we have the conversation between Donnie and Gretchen. And Donnie's like, yo, we've been going together for like 2 weeks. And Gretchen's like, you want to kiss me? There's this fat guy over there. We learn in fun facts that fat guy is the FAA spying on them, which is very fun because he shows up at Halloween again.
Yeah, in the red tracksuit.
Yeah, you're just like,
you don't know that correlation until the fun facts. You're just like, who the hell is this guy?
Yep, but knowing that, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Which also makes sense because they're probably like, what is going on with this family? We don't know. We don't know where this jet engine came from. They signed everything, but I don't trust them.
Yep. Okay, we have our pumpkin carving scene. That's scary, you think? Donnie is carving Frank into his pumpkins. We have our dinner with the parents. This is the added scene, Jess, that you were talking about. I want to buy him a moped, or I want a divorce.
Oh, yes. That was so funny because the parents are talking, and it's just the parents. It's like parents' night out. They're going on date night, and they're talking about, like, we really should, like, we have to think of a punishment. You can't just tell your teacher, shove it up their ass. He's, let's buy him a moped. And his mom was like, we need a divorce.
And then they both
laugh. And I was like, okay, they don't really, they're just like, what do we do with our kids?
I love them. I think it's worth noting that Rose is also one of the main characters in Battlestar Galactica. So we support her. We love her. Okay. This is the meeting with Dr. Thurman that Jess, you talked about, where she lays out that he's a paranoid schizophrenic. Like, it is what it is. We're going to up his medication. While this is happening, Donnie is stabbing the bathroom mirror. He's stabbing Frank in the eye. And Dr. Thurman is voicing over and explaining to us that Donnie is having a daylight hallucination. and that she wants to increase the medication and the hypnotherapy. Rose is crying, the mom, but she's saying like anything to help him and get him relief.
Yeah, it's not getting better. It's not. It was just like because she knows there has to this must not be easy, and it's reconfirmed later in the movie that he's like, "Mom, what's it like to have a son like me?"
Yep,
you know,
it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Oh, it's so
that
good.
part teared me up. Yeah.
Yep. So good. Added scene where Donnie tells Gretchen what's kind of going on at the arcade. That's where we get a chapter 7 introduction to philosophy of time travel.
It was an added scene, right? Because every time we go, was this again? I made notes like new scene. Yep. New scene.
Yep. Good morning, you mongrels. I said good morning. I love this. I love this scene. This is I think you're the fucking Antichrist. It's so good.
Slow clap. Remember I told you the next morning after we saw that scene, I said, I had a crazy fucking dream and you had a fuck you moment. And I go, when I hit that had to be, that was the last thing I saw before going to bed.
It's so good. In this version, in the director's cut, we have Donnie saying like, I'm moving through time. And he starts moving through time a little bit. And then Donnie gets
like he starts narrating his life almost like I'm in it right now.
Yeah. I'm like
that happens in
it
right now. Cut. Okay.
Yep. How much they paying you to be here. It's so good. It's so good. Obviously, like Donnie is spiraling. It's fantastic. And we see that because right after this, Gretchen and Donnie are out at the ear trees, and Gretchen's like, and Donnie is ranting, and Gretchen's like, "Yo, stop! Are you okay?" And again, Donnie tells the truth. Gretchen, I have been seeing stuff, some really weird, messed up stuff, and this book explains some of that stuff. And I don't know what's going on. In this director's cut, Gretchen clocks him and goes, bet, and takes him up to Grandma Death's house, and they knock on the fucking door. And I respect the hell out of Gretchen for that.
Yeah. And Gretchen's like that in the theatrical cut too, when he's like, let's rally, and it's all his friends and Gretchen go over to Grandma Death's too. Like they really are like ride or quite literally die.
Yep. While they are knocking on Grandma Death's door, Frank voices over and says, send her a letter. So, of course, somebody ought to write that bitch. We kind of get where this is going. Chapter 4. This is a chapter 4. Donnie and Dr. Monatoff. This is the act of God, all-time pre-decided portion of this time travel conversation. And this is the one where Monatoff is like, I'm out. I can't do any more of this, Donnie. You're going to get me fucking fired. I can't talk about this anymore. Cause Donnie is balls deep in this, like, if all time, like, is all time pre-decided, but like, if you can visually see your destiny through these like spears coming out of your chest, then like you are witnessing time travel because you're able to visually see your future play out in front of you before you do it. And Monatoff is like, yeah, but like if you could see it, you could actively choose to not do it, therefore exercising your free will. And Donnie's like, no, because this is God's channel. And Monatoff is like, no more. No, sir, enough. And Donnie, though, immediate is like, all right, and walks out. Doesn't fight it. I respect that.
Yeah, because like at that point, what was Donnie going to get out of it?
Yep. So good. Added scenes here of Drew's class of Watership Down, pre-ordering all of these copies, Watership Down.
Also adding that she's handing out books at one point, and she says to Donnie, maybe you and Frank can read this one together. And I was like, ooh, wait, how does she know? But also at this point, Frank is and isn't dead.
Right. It's
like, yeah.
we're there.
Very trippy.
I also think that I say Drew, but you know what I mean. Drew and Monotov, I do feel like they kind of know something about Donnie because they do sit there and go, Donnie Darko, Donnie Darko.
That was an added thing. And they were like, it was like they cheersed about it. They're like, there's something more there.
Yep. Moving on, we're up to chapter 6 in the book pages. The sprinklers are on. There's our water. Donnie finds Jim Cunningham's wallet. Goes, now you know where he lives. It's like, what are they going to do with that? What are they going to do with that? We have the glasses presentation at school. Get out. But that's where we have our first kiss. We love that. And then we have Jess, the movie theater, the Frank.
They hated this part. This is where I stopped it last night too.
Take us through it.
So they go to a movie together. It's just the two of them. And I noted they are seeing, hold on.
Evil Dead.
Yes. They're seeing
Sam Raimi.
Yeah. They're seeing the Evil Dead. It's really just the two of them in the movie. Gretchen falls asleep, but this is where we see a hallucination of Frank at one point where Frank says to Donnie, and Donnie's going back and forth, why are you always wearing that stupid mask? Why are you keeping up with antics? And Frank takes off the mask, reveals himself that he is Frank, a person who is missing an eye. And so we're led to believe a lot of different things. But it's not Donnie eventually killing him, but it kind of adds to the piece of the puzzle. But at this point, Frank tells, to Donnie through the hallucination, have you ever seen a portal? And then he shows him this portal on the movie screen, which I also think is interesting. The portal is a sky, which we know as rewatchers, the sky, and, maybe if you're piecing it together as you're like watching the movie, like, that's the sky. And what came out of the sky that nobody knows where anything is? The jet engine. So this is like, I feel like, of course, when you do the research or the rewatch, you're like, oh, it was there the whole time kind of experience. But this is also the scene where we're getting some context about this portal. And also Frank and also Donnie goes to, is this the part? Yeah, goes to Jim's house to set it on fire, and he's back before the movie's over, and Gretchen's still there, so technically he still has an alibi.
Yep. And while all that is happening with Donnie, Gretchen, and Frank, the rest of the town is at the talent show. Right? The talent show.
Which Jim is hosting.
That's why he's not home, which is why Donnie can go burn down his house.
It's also really fucking creepy. And I don't know if this is just like a small town thing that like, why is Jim so involved with all of these activities with minors involved?
Yeah. At a school.
At a school. And you know what's the worst part? I mean, it's always a terrible part, but these are high schoolers. This wasn't even like his victims.
Yep. Blech. Bleh. So he's got a very bad self-portrait, and that portrait burns away to reveal his like secret door to his kiddie porn dungeon.
That's what I couldn't connect. I was like, how did we know? Donnie just set it all off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Donnie didn't know.
He didn't know. That was never the intention. It was just Frank said, burn it to the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it just so happened. This is, again, fate, this destiny, justice, karmatic, all of these themes. We're introduced to sparkle motion. They kill it. Notorious.
I didn't realize that Notorious, because I knew the song from Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls, but I didn't realize that he sampled it from Duran Duran till we watched this.
Can't see Notorious. It's really good. Sparkle motion kills it. They kill it. Sharita also does a really fantastic classical.
Angel in the Fall.
Yeah, Angel in the Fall. She's so good. She's out on the statue. That's where she likes to be. And then we are at chapter 10, The Manipulated Dead. This is good shit. There's just a scene of like a blanket with Donnie and Gretchen. Very fun. But this is the scene. The deleted scene, it is not in the theatrical cut. This is Donnie and his dad. Just take me through it.
So, Donnie's dad starts off by saying, your little sister really missed you at the show last night. And Donnie starts asking, like, because his dad's also like, where were you? Your sister missed you. And Donnie's telling his dad, am I crazy? And his relationship with his parents, that he's so forthcoming and then his parents don't judge him. I think it's something that so many people who have positive relationships with their parents take for granted, and that they his parents have created the safe space for him to be so forthcoming. Because his dad says, he's like, you're not crazy. I was crazy. I know crazy. You're not crazy, but I do want to talk to you. You're my only son, and I know I'm not the best communicator. But here's some things that you kind of have to know about life. People are going to talk shit, and those people are also full of shit, and they just bullshit you all the time. And those bullshitters know that you're smarter than all of them, and you make them feel like inconsequential. And they have like great moments, and they this is one of the first times that you see Donnie genuinely laugh, and not a maniacal sense. He's like sharing this moment with his dad, and they just laugh together. And he's like, you know what? You're right. People are bullshit. People are shitty. And I feel like we talked about a little bit about this in our female friendships episode, is that was kind of the insight that your mom had given you at one time with some of the people that you were surrounding yours, not intentionally, but they were just like treating you and your family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this whole conversation with Donnie and his dad too, again, there are not enough representations of good, healthy parents. And like, these are good, healthy parents with a healthy son. Dad, am I crazy? You're not crazy. Fuck them. Fuck those people. You know why? They are scared because you're smarter than they are. Fuck them.
And they know it.
And
so they're trying to minimize you. Yeah.
So he's got support from mom and dad. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. But after that, though, Jim's arrested. His kiddie porn dungeon is announced on the news and on the paper. But then we are 10/24. There's not a lot of days left. Drew Barrymore has been fired. I'm sorry. You have failed.
And there was no reason. There was actually no reason, at least in the director's cut. I don't remember the theatrical cut. I feel like maybe there was more of a conversation. But she was like, can you give me some context? And that's all the principal says is, I'm sorry, you have failed. I have another call. And his other call was with Star Search.
Yep. To announce.
Which was for anybody who's listening, and if you've ever done historically musical performance, or any of your favorite artists, like Beyonce was on Star Search, Britney Spears was on Star Search. So it was like this old talent show. It was like a singing competition in the 80s.
Yep. Ed McMahon. All right, this added scene of Watership Down of Donnie just fucking losing it about the rabbits. This was cut in the theatrical version. Donnie is losing it. Why should we care? Then we start talking about the God machine and they save the rabbits. They don't fear death. Why should we care about them? They didn't know death was coming in the first place. Gretchen has to come in and be like, it's fucking literature. It's like a metaphor. The rabbits are us, Donnie. Get out of your ass about this.
And he's spiraling at this point, because he's like, and rabbits only care about things that make them happy, and that includes sex. And I was like, okay, we get it. You just got your first kiss with Gretchen. Calm down.
And he really is. He's starting to really lose it here. But here's one of my favorite scenes. It's between Rose and Kitty. I'd never ask you to go, but out of everyone, but you're the only one.
Again, Donnie's parents are elite, because Kitty's at this door of Donnie's, you're the last parent I would have ever relied on. You're all the backhanded I would have never come to you. And while asking her favors, all of the condescension while asking her favors, can you please be part of Jim Cunningham's support? I have to go on trial for him and give a character statement. We should form a coalition for this. Also, I hate you. You're the last person I would ever rely on, but I need you. And I'm like, excuse you, because I would have taken my daughter by herself.
Yep.
You're not going with a team. No, I will watch my daughter. I don't know what other, but it was the 80s. It was the 80s. Who knows? Maybe because it was the 80s, all the children could have fleed off by themselves. Drew Barrymore did growing up.
I'm beginning to doubt your commitment to sparkle motion.
No, and then we already know, which is funny because it's at the talent show that she tells one of the girls' names. I can't remember. She's like, so-and-so, and if you throw up, swallow it. And the girl's response was, yes, mom. So now we know she's stage parent through and through. So like your commitment to, your commitment. I want to know part of this. My daughter wanted to be in it. She can go do what they want.
And again, Rose, the mother, amazing. She agrees to do it. And she's talking to Donnie. She's like, look, we're going to go. Like, your dad's in New York. Elizabeth's in charge. She'll drive you to therapy. Tell Dr. Thurman everything. And Donnie looks at her and goes, how does it feel to have a wacko as a son? And she looks at him and she tears up and she goes, it feels wonderful.
And then to follow up on this beautiful scene, there's another director's cut, not theatrical, of them saying goodbye. And they have like this sweet goodbye. He's kind of, he has some levity and a pep to his step. His little sister is like, bye, Donnie. Everybody was like in such a good mood. You think, here we go. Our family, stuff is just gonna rainbows and sunshine from here on out. But that is wrong.
It's wrong. He says, Mom, there's nothing broken in my brain. And she goes, I know. And she gives him a big hug. Just, we love it. We love it. All right. But we're towards the end of this here. Donnie writes the letter. He's sending it off to, Grandma Death. And this is where we have Drew Barrymore. Donnie walks in Friday afternoon, cellar door. They say it's the most beautiful phrase. They fired me. That's bullshit. You're the only good teacher here. Thank you. It's so good.
Which seems very par for the course when anybody refers to like their English teacher and their literature teacher. It's always the literature teacher that you still think of. Because I remember mine and he was awesome.
There's a reworking here in the theatrical cut. Donnie goes, what do I tell everybody when they ask about you? And Drew says, tell them that everything will be okay. She doesn't say that here. They don't have that interaction at all. She doesn't leave him with anything. So later in the end of the movie, when Donnie says it's weird because it's like, where did that come from? But it's coming from Drew. So in the theatrical cut, if you mesh the two of them together, then you kind of double down on the fact that she kind of knew what was going on here. But again, we're only working on this one. But right after this, Donnie walks out and he runs into Sharita. And to Sharita with her earmuffs, he goes, I promise one day everything will be better for you. And he ends up taking her earmuffs, and she had written Donnie Darko with hearts on her book covers. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. Okay. This therapy session with Dr. Thurman and Donnie, this is the last one. This is where Donnie ends up on his knees. This is where everything kind of comes to light. This is the kind of scary one. All right. He's under hypnosis. He talks about regret and not getting these hungry hippos.
Well, and I think that's part of just the therapy MO to like talk about like the lighthearted things or things that you think there might be a connection with like PTSD or CPTSD. And he's like, and how did that make you feel? And then he starts getting a little manic with his laughter, saying like, I did it again. And she's like, did what again, to get like this information. Cause now that we know the hungry hippos is now on par, like, what are you talking about? He's like, I only have a few days. I only have a few days till they catch me. Cause now we're in that week of October 24th. And he's like, I have to obey or they're going to leave me alone. He admits that he was and he's manically laughing as he's like admitting these things under hypnotherapy. I flooded the school. I burned down the house, and Frank told me my time is up, and Frank is going to kill me, and the sky is going to open up. And he's like, at this point, he's overwhelmed because he also sees the hallucination of Frank at the same time, saying there he is. He's crying. This is all under hypnotherapy, and goes to hug his therapist and is actively hugging her, and she's reciprocating that clearly he needs it. It's all very professional. And she snaps him out of the hypnosis, and he's still clutching to her.
Yep.
Also, and before the clutch, he's grasping and holding not a stuffed teddy bear, it's a stuffed rabbit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. And the therapist also says things to Donnie that are not what he wants to hear. If you kind of go back to his first session, though, she goes, if the sky were to open up, then there would be no rules. There would be no order. There would only be you and him alone with your thoughts and your memories, which is like not at all what Donnie wants to hear. Like, cause he's terrified of dying alone. But that's what she says. That's what she says. And then she snaps him out of it. But Donnie also says under the hypnosis, like, well, I have to obey Frank. Like, he saved me. Like, I have to know his plan. I have to figure all of this out. So that there's also all of that kind of part to it. But this, Jess, before we have her statement that changes everything, we have Dr. Thurman telling Donnie a little bit about religion. And she's like, Donnie, like, you are not an atheist. Like, you are an agnostic. Like,
and this is new for the director's cut.
This is new for the director's cut. He's like, Donnie, you're agnostic. Like, you don't deny the possibility of God. You just know that there can be no proof of it. So until there's proof, you just can't believe it, but you can't deny that, like, yeah, there's probably something out there. And then she says, what does she say?
She says, you can stop taking your meds. They've been placebos this whole time.
So that is not in the theatrical cut. Just knowing that, what does that make you feel?
That I feel like she realized that nothing he was doing was like out of it. Like everything was out of his control.
There was something.
Yeah. There was something
else. Something
at play.
Else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with her telling the parents, like, we have to increase his prescription and his dosage. I think it was to keep everybody on that same mentality. Because it's like, you wouldn't want it to slip that you were giving your client placebos.
Yep.
But it's also like, I think that is how you address things to see if they're like psychosemantic kind of issues.
Yep. All right. Here we go. 10:29. Elizabeth gets into Harvard. Let's throw the party. Keg beers for pussies.
Which honestly, I feel like is such a funny thing to say, because if anybody has had experience with a keg, that is like the hardest thing to not only access, but to tap and then to transport anywhere.
Yep.
Like that is for champions, honestly.
Keg beers for pussies. We have our phone call of Dr. Thurman saying, Rose, there's an emergency. But of course, Rose is with everybody on Sparkle Motion.
She's about to like spill it all.
Yep. She's like, woo. We're here, though, in Chapter 9, the insurance trap. Here we go. Gretchen shows up at the party. Donnie, my mom is gone. The house is a mess. The police say to go somewhere safe. Donnie, all right, let's go to my parents' room and fuck. Let's go fuck.
I didn't realize until I did like fun fact research that I thought they were just like having a makeout session. I thought it was like they were just having a makeout session. Honest to God.
Oh no, let's fuck.
Well, it's also kind of cute because you see in this moment also that Elizabeth, Donnie's sister,
she clocks
sees him. Yeah, she clocks it, but she's so happy for him because she's never really seen him outside of his like male friendship dynamics with like these two schmucks.
It's really fun. Of course, Gretchen drops the line, some people are just born with tragedy in their blood. Oh, it's good. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. They have sex. They come down. They miss the mom's phone call saying that she's going to be home at 8 in the fucking morning. So get ready.
You know, that was the first thing I go, oh no.
Yeah, oh
so
no.
The first 8:30, the party it's right now is midnight.
Yeah, but Frank was there. Frank has left. Frank is on a beer run. Now, there are 6 hours left until the event happens. This is where on screen, Donnie like flips upside down and he starts like really holding his stomach and he sees, his like spear of destiny and it leads him right to Gretchen. Of course, she's our insurance. And he goes like, we need to go. And Jess, this is where you said like, everybody's like, all right, we ride. Let's go. Ride or die. Let's get on our bicycles. We go to Grandma Des' house. We break in through the cellar door. This is all the insurance trap. and the bullies are there. I don't know why they're there. It's just fucking fate. Why are they there?
I thought they were breaking in. They were trying to steal something from Grandma Death.
But like...
But
why?
I also think it's funny because they have the pantyhose on their head.
Yeah,
and then,
like, what are you doing?
And Donnie took it off and they were like, we've been made.
Whoa,
I'm like,
no,
that wasn't how you got made.
It's just like, what are you doing? Anyway, but they throw Gretchen into the street and she ends up being run over by Frank, and Frank kills her. And then Seth, the bully, has got the knife on Donnie's throat. And he's like, I have a bigger knife now. And Donnie looks at him. He's like, Deus ex machina, our savior. And the guy's like, what? What the fuck is this? No, sir. And he fucks out of there. Of course, Donnie's talking about Frank, because this is when everything comes full circle for Donnie and for Frank, because Frank comes out of the car. He's like, what are you doing in the road, huh? And he's got Frank's like the head part of his costume in the hands. It's a slow pan up, and Donnie does not hesitate, gets up and shoots Frank in the fucking eye. Down he goes, bam. All right. And Grandma Death has the letter, by the way, because Frank had to swerve her, and that's part of the reason why he ran over Gretchen. All right. And what does Donnie say here? Donnie says, go home and tell your parents that everything will be okay. All right.
And we know this now because Donnie knows that he's going to save mankind right at this point.
Yep. Donnie has connected everything in his mind now. And here in the director's cut, we have Grandma Death coming up to Donnie and saying, a storm is coming. You must hurry. And then this is where everything kicks in. All right. So Donnie takes Gretchen's body. We go into the car. We go up to watch the storm come in over his house. He kisses Elizabeth goodbye. It's very fun. Very sweet.
Yeah. And he goes to see this storm in the same place where we started the movie.
Yep. Where he woke up. Yep. He's holding his stomach as this storm kind of forms. He's up there with Gretchen. The cops arrive at his house because obviously shit went down last night at the party. He goes, Donnie's like, I'm going home. The plane with his sister on it, we see it now. Like, this is all going. We see the plane with his mom and sister on it lose the engine. And then we have a purge screen kind of come up on the movie theater. It says purge. And then as the engine is falling, we have like a rewind of the past 28 days because this is our loop. We're closing everything. Everything is getting erased now. And as that is happening, we have our letter, and Donnie kind of voices over the letter that he wrote to Roberta Sparrow. He's like, I found your book. I have all these questions, and I'm scared that you're going to tell me it's all real. But I guess when the world ends, I will breathe a sigh of relief. Echoing on what his mom, the only thing his mom wanted for him, relief. I will breathe a sigh of relief. Knowing that there's so much to look forward to. And then we forward to Donnie. He's in his bed. The calendar picture is Death looking Death in the eye. And he's laughing hysterically as the engine falls on him. We have many different angles of it. And Dr. Thurman wakes up and feels this impact.
Well, and that's partly because I took a screenshot of this. Mm-hmm. When the manipulated awaken from their journey into the tangent universe, they are often haunted by the experience in their dreams. Many of them will not remember, but those who do remember the journey, who do remember the journey are often overcome with profound remorse for the regretful actions buried like within their soul, within their mind, or within their memory. Which is also really interesting because as Mad World is playing at the end of this director's cut as well, you're getting a pan of all of these people who are they're manipulated because or the ones that remember really. So the therapist wakes up. Drew doesn't, but the other teacher, the professor does. Jim, the bad guy, he's bad all through it. There's no other way. He is like acknowledging that he's a shitty person and he's a despicable person. And you still have you're panning to all of the people and then you also find out there are people who don't remember because we find, Gretchen in this rewind is alive. She's also, because of this, she's never met Donnie, but there's a familiarity there between his mother and her that feels very deja vu.
Yep. You did it. You did it.
You were so excited. I was sending you so many voice memos last night and I was like, I'm sorry, here's another one. Sorry, here's another one. And I finally I finished them today and I held off for you.
Yep. You did it. You did it. That's the end. It ends with the waving. I think it's fantastic, obviously. I fucking love this movie. I love talking about it. I love thinking about it. I love watching it. I love all of it. Jess, what do you think?
It was so good. It wasn't scary or horror led. It's a thinking movie. Another thing that I realized in that the 29th day and it's because I watched it with captions on, the first lyrics of the song that's playing ahead of the party says "One More Night," which I was like, this is so good. People put so much thought into it. At least with the director's cut that I watched. I don't know if that's how it was. I don't remember if that's how it was for the theatrical cut. It's all good. There's so many fun facts. I do have a question. Maybe I couldn't find, how the Frank of it all. And then there's a moment where Jim is doing a slideshow and there's a Frank character there. And then when Frank is alive and saying why is your name Frank and all of this, or I'm sorry, I think he's dead. He's in the movie theater. He's talking about his father and his father's father. Is there a correlation there? Is Jim his dad? Or this just happened to be? Yeah,
it's just one of those.
Oh, okay. Because I was this seems. We've been thinking throughout this whole film. I was is there something that I'm missing here?
I think that title card being Frank was just to kind of kick Donnie in the pants and be oh my God, it's here too. It's not just at home or it's happening here too. Yeah. I love that you love this movie because I know that you were so hesitant, but damn, is it good, right?
Yeah. And I think the only way I would have been able to see it, because I was dragging my feet about it. I was are we going to have to watch this instead of that when I come out to see you? And you're I don't want to hear you bitch and complain about it. Mm-hmm. And then we love a homework assignment. That's my shtick. And it was so fun. Do you have a preference of which one you like watching?
Oh, great question. I like watching the director's cut because I like having the book. I like having the pages. I like having these reminders to think about it a little bit more. I like the parents. I like the interactions with the dad. I like all of the little details that are there. But it goes back to that conversation of when you have different versions, which one do you show a virgin? So I showed you the theatrical cut first because you did not know anything about this. You went in pretty much blind, and I'm not going to sit there and make you read about the collapse of the tangent universe and the introduction of the artifact because you're going to look at me like I'm fucking nuts. You have to have some sort of background foundational knowledge first.
I also think having background knowledge in some of the books that we've read and the movies that we've covered, definitely, this isn't, you don't throw me in the deep end for this one.
Yeah, no.
We built up to it because I think when we were watching it, I would gasp and I would make a connection. I think those are the moments you were I think she gets it. Yeah. Wait, I think is she making the connection? But you couldn't react to it the way am I onto something? I would just say things out loud.
Yeah. So I think that conversation that we continue to have is there are so many versions. Which one do you do? Thank God for Donnie Darko. There are only 2 versions. So you are really standard. You can check the vibes with the first one and go deeper with the second one. I like having that option. I like having my physical media too, because, it has, trailers and clips and TV interviews and all of these, the commentary, it has all of this stuff that I can access whenever I want. So, but me being a super fan, I like having that option. However, I'm not so much of a super fan as that I have the book. I don't have the book. So
it's based off of a book. It really is based off of a book.
It is not based off of a book. It is just it was written into a book, and Jake Gyllenhaal did the foreword to the book. It was like it's like this whole thing. I just don't have it. It was just, it came out at one of those really weird times. I don't have it. But what I do have are some fun facts. Just a few. Do you want some?
Please.
Jason Schwartzman was almost Donnie. Cool Ethan was almost Donnie. I don't know how I would have felt about that. I already had a crush on Jason Schwartzman, so I don't know. We already talked about Drew Barrymore and her connection here. The forcibly insert the Lifeline exercise card into my anus was so funny that it made Richard Kelly leave set because he kept laughing. We talked about Ashley Tisdale and Seth Rogen, and let's see. The video game for football, John Madden. Yeah. The chess spears came from there, kind of. As like the way he would draw on TV and like all of that, and on video how it looked. So that was very interesting. Let's see. 28 days to shoot, 28 days to write, 28 days in the movie. It's weird. Donnie was almost Vince Vaughn and Mark Wahlberg too. Weird. I don't know. No thanks. Let's see. I got a good one. It is the same kid that says, "Teach me how to fight." That is the one who pees the bed in the video. Hinting to us, the viewer, that Jim brings in audience to help drive.
That's like a PR thing too, or a marketing thing to like plant people into the audience. That way, if there's not natural Q&As happening from audience members, so you don't have filmmakers like, why doesn't nobody care about my movie? That's usually that's something that happens in the industry too.
It was Jake Gyllenhaal's idea to use Maggie as the character, and this movie was a fucking flop.
Yeah, I think it was. What did I have for numbers? Box office performance, it grossed a little over 500,000 in the initial run, and then the film gained a cult following after the reissued. And I think we've mentioned this, that Drew Barrymore's production company, Flower Films, produced this film for $4.5 million. If Barrymore did not step in, the movie would have gone straight to like home, like straight to video or cable television. Another fun fact. Well, this one I saw, and we'll put the links in the show notes too, from donniedarko.org.uk. The movie takes place in 1988. The world, as we know, ends in 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. If you add these numbers together, the sum is 88. When Samantha asks when she can have kids, Donnie says not until 8th grade. Donnie mentions to his therapist his dog died when he was 8. Yeah, according to the television reporter, Jim Cunningham's house was extinguished sometime after 8 p.m. Donnie mentions the DeLorean car, which is used to travel back in time in Back to the Future in 1985. And in Back to the Future, the DeLorean had to reach a speed of 88 miles per hour to travel in time. And then also with Donnie's mom and sister flying home from Sparkle Motion's Star Search performance on the Red Eye flight, the flight number of the plane is 2806, which boards at gate 42, leaves at 12 a.m. And this is a reference to the 28, 6, 42, 12 countdown that Frank gives Donnie.
Isn't that good? Isn't that good
shit? I want to know the significance of 8.
Isn't that good shit? Oh,
yeah.
It's good. Oh, it's good. Good. Jem Moore?
Is this, I feel like, there's like we talked about the Seth Rogen and Jake Gyllenhaal admitted at the wrap party they have no idea what the film was about. And then what else? Every year in Santa Monica, the Aero Theater, which is where the film scene, or I should say the film's theater scene takes place in, has an annual tradition of playing Donnie Darko on Easter. So if I'm ever in LA, for an Easter weekend or something, that is going to be on my list of things to do, is to watch it in Santa Monica.
Imagine. Oh my God.
How crazy.
Fun.
How wild is that?
Oh my God.
Like, what is there a favorite scene that you have? Like, what is it that really drew you to this?
Well, what kept me watching it was that it was surprisingly funny and also thought-provoking. That's what kept me watching it over and over and over again. And then it was also incredibly niche. I cannot tell you how niche this was. When this came out, nobody knew what we were talking about. We were pretentious as fuck. We would write the 28 days on our arms. Nobody knew what that was. It was like this thing that we would
an inside joke.
It wasn't even like
not even like a joke.
Like, it wasn't funny. It was just like this thing that like we had that was interesting and cool, and like you wouldn't understand. It's a 6-foot bunny rabbit. Like don't eat. I mean, obviously we were children, but like it was just this thing that made us feel so cool, which also, though, a lot of people really fucking hate this movie. A lot of people hate this movie, even though it's been listed as like one of the top indie movies of all time. Like, you know, it's all of that.
A must-watch film. Mm-hmm. I think even one of the things I saw said like it's 80 something on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So very interesting to hear that there was so much hate for this.
Yeah, people hate this movie. You know, what is the thing? It insists upon itself. It just is. It's a lot for people, and I think also that can kind of go with like a media literacy thing. I know media literacy is very much a hot topic right now with Megapolis, but you know, it is something to be said that a movie that doesn't, just as you said, spoon feed you everything, that makes you sit, that makes you think, that excites you. It's exciting to sit there and think about it and make the connections and work with the film as it kind of gives you all of this. That's a fun experience, but you have to be engaged. You have to pay attention.
This isn't a be on your phone.
Yeah.
And we weren't. We kept our, you can't be on your phone. You need to, you know, kind of shut everything out in the world and make time and not have it as a background noise. Because I think at one point during one of my rewatches, I was going to attempt to do that. And I was like, I can't do that. I have to focus because it's so nuanced, some of the visual components that add to the storytelling of this film.
Yes. I personally like the slow motion jumping on the trampoline. I don't know what it is about it. It just kind of like sets the stage of like the 80s suburban slow.
It's kind of like the Virgin Suicides when you had like the sprinklers and everything.
Yeah. It's very atmospheric. I really enjoy it. But yeah, so I think there is a lot of conversations to be had. Obviously, people have been talking about Donnie Darko since it came out. Richard Kelly said in 2021 that he's entertaining thoughts of a sequel. So there is also, that to be, you know, thought about as well.
Yeah, and I think there was even, when we saw this when we were searching for it, for where to stream, we found there was like an S Darko, so like felt like a spinoff. And then again, trying to get some background context on this, it apparently is a continuation story of Samantha.
Yes, but Richard Kelly is not affiliated with that one, and he doesn't like that it exists. So there is also that.
But all that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.